RZA, and to me, this album and the second Bobby Digital album, they sit in an interesting place in because RZA, at the time, RZA's my favorite rapper and my favorite producer. He's my favorite everything at the time. Like, I was a huge RZA fan. Like, huge. So, like, this album and the second Bobby Digital, and I would even extend it a little bit to the Birth of a Prince record. That era, that three album run or whatever, is a certain sound to me from RZA before it even goes in another place after that. Right. And what I get from it is, RZA, if you look at like what he's done post all of this stuff, RZA, one thing that I think he wants is to be taken seriously as a musician.
Yes.
I think RZA doesn't want. I'm not
just a hip hop artist. I'm not just a producer. I'm doing finger quotes here, but this can be the kiss of death for a lot of these guys.
Yeah,
because
I think.
It's unfair because they're kind of like pushing up against what is now, by 2024 standards, a really outdated way of looking at things. Where it's like, we've seen, it's like, yo, it's not just guys who are like, oh, you just like, somebody's grandpa being like, oh, that's not music. You're just taking this and then you put through that. And it's like, you do it. You try that if you think it's that easy. Not everybody can do this. This is a skill, just as like playing piano or playing the drums is like, that is a skill. Having an ear and knowing how to loop things up and how to arrange things is a skill. But especially at that time, I could see how a guy like RZA was like, I got to prove that I'm more than just a novelty, more than just this thing. Because even in the 90s, people were saying, oh, hip hop's not going to last.
Look,
like, this is just
RZA,
a fad.
I don't think
that's true.
Again, these are all my opinions, Czar's opinions, but I don't think RZA particularly is that interested in being compared to DJ Premier and being compared to Pete Rock. RZA wants to be compared to Quincy Jones.
Quincy Jones, yeah.
RZA wants to be compared to RZA wants to be compared to Isaac Hayes. You know what I'm saying? Like I think he looks at what he does in that way versus it being like, and then if you look at hip hop, like there's the DJ Premiers and the Pete Rocks and the Large Professors, and the way that there's a synergy in the way that the beats get made. And I think there was always like all RZA does is loop up shit. You know what I'm saying? Like we're kind of doing this, or these producers do these other things. Because like if you talk to like a lot of like snobby hip hop producer fans, like they're not considering, like they'll talk about Dilla, and if you're like, yo, like, well, RZA, like, with Dilla, like, do you know the things that Dilla does with a beat, like? RZA doesn't do those things. He just loops things up. Like I've heard those kind of like takes. So I feel like RZA's respect in a production, even for the great albums that he produced and put together, from an enthusiast standpoint, I don't think he gets that, or even got it like up until the turn. I don't think he really got that. So
I think he did. The perspectives, and it could be a regional thing too, but I think he. At least from in the directions I was in, I think he was considered like a top producer in the real hip hop realm, right? But the thing is that like this dude.
Well, let me ask you right quick. I'm sorry. When you said real hip hop realm, I want to put a delineation because I was saying like producer snob realm, which I think is different than the real hip hop realm.
I mean, listen, but if I'm thinking like. The producers that are we all know the producers that are mentioned from the 90s, right? The DJ Premiers, Pete Rock, Large Professor, whatever the case is. I throw in DJ Muggs and, a few others, right?
Yes.
So, like, I feel like RZA was held pretty high regard, like...
I would agree to that.
With the Wu-Tang albums, that string of albums, right? Yeah, and what he did with it. But the thing is that which kind of actually gives us like little clues of what he was aspiring to do, is that the records he put together was more than just the beats. DJ Premier being my favorite like producer, like he's a beatsmith. He's an excellent beatsmith, right?
RZA was making songs.
Right. So Premier though has never arranged an album as well as a RZA would do, right? Or compose things and make things happen. So when you see the way that he put together a 36, even with the little interludes and sound bits and this and that and the clips from the movies, like to me, that shows that he wants to show more than just I can make a beat or be a beatsmith. I can put things together. I can arrange. I can compose. So going into that digital album, that was his first attempt. Now, I also, and I'm coming in defense of RZA, but in '98 there weren't an array of instrumental tools other than actual instruments and some synths here and there and whatever. Today we got plugins, we got all types of stuff that can make it sound like it was sampled, right? So I feel like if that stuff did exist back then, maybe he would have had a different approach than just,
of course,
And I don't want to go too deep because some of the songs I will point out some of the things that that kind of bother me with that. But we're talking about 1998, and it was something new. So I give him props and credit. Where I mentioned the word disappointment, I need to make sure that I did have some enjoyment also. It was back and forth, but ultimately I thought that the record was deserving to be existing, and for a reason. And looking back, how many years have gone by now? It's a pillar. It's something to go back to and re-listening to it because I knew we were going to do this was like, okay, yeah, like maybe I've changed. My ears have changed,
right?
And so I've accepted a little bit more than probably my young 18-year-old version of me heard. So, but RZA was trying to score and compose. Man, he wasn't trying to be Dilla or produce or Premier. To your words there, like he definitely wasn't. So I agree with that. His mind was somewhere else. He's trying to be a master producer, homie.
I think too where he fucked up is that it's such a stark contrast to the previous catalog that
absolutely
it just throws you way to the right. Yeah. Which like if you go through the previous albums, they all sound very different, but they all had the synergy of like a signature.
They're in the same neighborhood.
They're in the same neighborhood. And this does still carry the signature, but it's so to the right that you're like,
yeah. Well, you have to be cognizant of your audience too. You're not just creating in a bubble. And like, if there's a world where he put this out as Bobby Digital and didn't have the word RZA on it anywhere, and like just released it as an alter ego, we might all be talking about this and thinking about it in a different way. But no matter how you like slice it, he did something that we could say Bobby Digital, and that instantly conjures something for anybody who like cares about this shit. You could say, oh yeah, he pulled a Bobby Digital. Okay, like that's going to be like, all right, you're going to cock your head a little bit. Oh, so this is some different shit, because he did something different. And you got to give credit. We always do these. I always find it important to say, like, we're not shitting on anybody. There's reverence for everybody who does these things. And I know, like, I don't know the total summation of what your guys' opinion is on this, but like I think we'll get into it. But this isn't a RZA bashing.
You said something that really just hit me. With the way that the underground was about to go and everything, because this is like right when we're getting into that underground phase that was going to come.
And all that.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if this album was the same album, let's assume, but it's not RZA at all. It's new rapper Jonathan, and
I fucking love new rapper Jonathan.
Yeah, and it just comes out on Stretch and Bobbito and like whatever, and it's just a whole different sound of like, because I could see a scenario where somebody would be like, yo, this new shit is completely different, and like like we're fucking with this rapper. I feel like there's a whole like, because it was him. And you're supposed to give us this magnum opus. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that, not that it makes the album better or worse, but I just feel like the stigma of, bro, this is not what you're supposed to give us. Like, the fuck are you doing? I feel like that did play in.